it's not the should that you're used to thinking about. There will always be people that want to. I even contend that all of us want our own concepts to be the rule. Okay, we can call this a will of power, will to power. It's a Nietzschean concept, but I think it's totally valid. I think it's totally true. We do want power. We want personal power. I also believe that, as Lord Acton said, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. It is very hard to deal with power, influence, the ability to change someone's behavior according to our will. What I can say is that when people like moral nihilists, and I consider myself currently a moral nihilist, in the sense that I do not believe in the existence of objective moral properties, independent from the desires of the subjects. The only type of objectivity that I can think of in such realms, and even in other realms, is even in science, it's a relative objectivity. This meaning objectivity inside of relativity. The only way I can think of absolutes is if they're relative as well, and this may be seen as an oxymoron. It's the type of thing that I can say that it is absolute fact that in 1995 Mount Everest was higher than K2. Okay, but whatever, and it will always be like that. Okay, it will always be like that. That in 1995 Everest was higher than K2. Okay, so it's still a relationship, but it's an absolute relationship, in the sense that it will never change, ever. So why am I saying all this crazy shit? Well, because I see moral nihilists like me turning into word Nazis. And the objectivist realm, which I'm getting further and further apart or away from time to time they accuse the moral nihilists of wanting to be word Nazis. And they're kind of right. Everybody is a word Nazi. But anyway, I'd like to propose certain things, that we continue to use moral language. It's a kind of quasi-realist position, but not quite. Well, all I'm recognizing is the inevitability of using some sort of moral or proto-moral or moralish words in discourse. Are you really prepared, moral nihilists, and I'm talking to myself here as well, to give away the word should, for instance? Are you prepared to not have arguments and debates with other people, because arguments and debates are always about values, not facts? Even when you talk about facts in arguments, those facts that you present as reasons to support your values, according to the is-ought dichotomy, it's not a rational thing to do, even because, just because there's a certain fact in reality and another fact in reality, and even because that fact leads to certain consequences, and you value those consequences, it doesn't mean that other people who doesn't share your values, meaning their ponderation upon the consequences of set actions, returns a different feeling, moral feeling, if you want to call it that. You can't really say that someone is stupid for not valuing human life, or he's not rational for not valuing human life, or that he's not intelligent for not valuing human life, or something like that. And that's pretty fucked up, isn't it? Pretty fucked up. I mean, if you want to argue, persuade someone, how can you even persuade someone? Okay? According to what the things are. Maybe we need to live in a sort of fantasy world, you know? Maybe morality, the great myth of morality, is useful, after all, in the realm of persuasion. What are the alternatives to persuasion? Violence. You guessed. How can one be a libertarian, for instance, to value liberty and persuade a socialist or a militant altruist? Altruist meaning someone that has in others the standard of value for his life. Okay? For instance, I don't have anything against a certain concept of altruism because I really believe that altruism exists in a certain way. For instance, when you apparently value other people's needs above your own. I say this is apparent because I'm a believer in psychological egoism, so that when you act to fulfill other people's, when you interrupt what you previously wanted for yourself because you came to be aware that other people wanted another thing and you interrupted what you previously wanted to do what other people wanted, you're not really putting that other people's needs in front of your own. What just happens is that you are an interactive program that when you are confronted with behaviors or needs that are different from the ones you were previously experiencing, emerging from yourself or whatever, solely through introspection, you could say that. You suspend those and have like a priority condition in your programming to do other people's will first. But that is still your will. That's what you feel inclined to do. That's what you feel motivated to do. So, altruism, I propose, exists, but it is a subset of egoism. It is not a contrapunct to egoism because altruism as a counterpoint to egoism does not exist. Altruism, as is defined by Ayn Rand, is impossible. That's why she is against altruism. But she doesn't need to be against something that is not impossible. That makes no sense. If altruism is impossible, meaning altruism does not exist, she doesn't have to base her philosophy or a substantial part of her philosophy in something that isn't even existing. She would just need to make it clear that it doesn't exist and how people decide, how people act, okay? And how, whatever. The consequences of being a program that puts other people's needs as a priority, as a conscious priority. Well, but do all this why? Because we were talking about, are you prepared to give up on debating people, on persuading people? After all, you can't be right about, for instance, wanting there to be animal rights, wanting people to stop eating meat. Why? Because, for instance, I care for animals, I feel empathy for animals, and I would prefer to live in a world that was vegetarian. I really would. If everybody did the same, if I went to the supermarket and all I found was vegetarian products, well, I would not feel any pain or any, at least for after a couple of weeks or a couple of months, to free myself psychologically from meat and stuff. Because we all live pretty much convinced and programmed to meat tastes a lot better and stuff like that. That's because that's what we know, and we're used to it. But anyway, what I mean is, you cannot, in terms of abortion, for instance, how can you persuade someone to value the human life that's growing inside of another person's uterus, you know?